In 1874, a single shot from a Sharps rifle could drop a buffalo at 1,000 yards. When the smoke cleared, the American West was forever changed. The legendary Sharps wasn't just a rifle. It was the technological marvel that helped tame the frontier, feed armies, and write the bloody history of westward expansion. Today, we're going to uncover the story of Christian Sharp's revolutionary weapon and how it became one of the most legendary firearms in Old West history. In an era when most firearms required tedious loading from the muzzle, one man envisioned a better way. The year was 1848, and Christian Sharps had just patented a firearm that would revolutionize shooting forever. His breech-loading design wasn't just an improvement, it was a revelation. The genius of the Sharps rifle lay in its simplicity. By lowering a lever, the shooter dropped a metal breech block, exposing the chamber. This allowed for loading cartridges directly into the rear of the barrel, a process that took seconds rather than minutes. In the untamed wilderness of the American frontier, those saved minutes often meant the difference between life and death. Early models used paper cartridges and percussion caps, but Sharps was never satisfied. He continued refining his design throughout the 1850s, making his rifles increasingly reliable in the harsh conditions of the frontier. These improvements didn't go unnoticed. By the time the Civil War erupted in 1861, both Union and Confederate forces sought these weapons for their elite sharpshooters. The true legend, however, emerged in 1874. The Sharps Model 1874, often simply called the Sharps, combined all previous innovations with the new metallic cartridge technology. This wasn't just another gun. It was a precision instrument. Craftsmen at the Sharps Rifle Manufacturing Company meticulously assembled each weapon, hand-fitting parts and testing accuracy before any rifle left the factory. What made the 1874 Sharps truly exceptional was its accuracy at extraordinary distances. In skilled hands, these rifles could consistently hit targets at 500 yards. An experienced marksman could reach out to 1,000 yards or more. This was unheard of in an age when most combat occurred at less than 100 yards. The barrel itself was a marvel of 19th century engineering. Many Sharps rifles featured heavy octagonal barrels, precisely rifled with a 1/18 twist that stabilized the massive bullets. The most famous variant, the 50-90 Sharps, fired a bullet weighing over 650 grains, nearly 1.5 ounces of lead and capable of dropping the largest bison with a single shot. But the innovation didn't stop with the basic design. The Sharps could be equipped with remarkable sights for the period, including vernier tang sights and globe front sights that allowed for precise adjustments. Some models featured double-set triggers, one to set the mechanism and a second that released the firing pin with just a feather touch, essential for long-distance accuracy. Perhaps most impressive was the rifle's adaptability. Sharps rifles came in various calibers, from the modest .40-70 to the thunderous .50-140. Barrel lengths varied from carbine length 22 inches to full 30-inch Big 50s, preferred by professional buffalo hunters. Each configuration served a specific purpose on the frontier. When a shooter raised a Sharps to their shoulder, they held more than a firearm. They wielded American innovation itself. Unlike the mass-produced weapons that would follow decades later, each Sharps represented countless hours of skilled labor and mechanical precision. With a range that outpaced visibility and power that commanded respect, the Sharps rifle became both the symbol and the instrument of America's westward vision. When millions of bison thundered across the Great Plains, they met their match not in natural predators, but in a single technological marvel, the Sharps rifle. The era of the buffalo hunter began in earnest around 1870, when Eastern markets developed an insatiable appetite for buffalo hides, and the Transcontinental Railroad provided a means to ship them. The Sharps rifle transformed hunting from a subsistence activity into an industrial enterprise. Professional hunters, perched on distant ridges, could drop massive buffalo with surgical precision from ranges exceeding 500 yards. The animals, bewildered by invisible death striking from impossible distances, often continued grazing even as members of their herd collapsed around them. No name became more synonymous with buffalo hunting than Billy Dixon. Armed with his trusted Sharps 50-90, Dixon and hunters like him could harvest dozens of animals in a single stand. These weren't reckless slaughters, but calculated executions. The most skilled hunters developed a system. Take aim at one animal, drop it with a clean shot to the lungs or heart, then move to the next, methodically working through the herd without causing a stampede. The Big 50 Sharps emerged as the preferred tool of the trade. Chambered in massive calibers like the 50-90 and later the 51-10, these rifles delivered devastating energy. Their heavy, solid lead bullets, often weighing over 600 grains, carried enough force to pass through the thick hide and dense bone of America's largest land mammal.
Even more impressive was the penetrating power. A single bullet could sometimes pass through multiple animals standing in line. Buffalo hunting with the Sharps wasn't merely a matter of power. It required specialized equipment and extraordinary skill. Hunters developed custom shooting sticks, bipods, and portable bench rests. Many used distinctive cartridge boards, wooden blocks drilled with holes to hold additional ammunition upright within easy reach. Loading and firing became a rhythmic dance. Load, aim, fire, extract, reload. The most proficient hunters maintained a lethal cadence, sometimes taking 40 or 50 animals before the herd scattered. The economic impact was staggering. A skilled hunter with a Sharps could earn more in a day than many Americans made in a month. Beyond the hides, which sold for $3 each in the early 1870s, there was profit in the bones, collected and shipped east to be ground into fertilizer. Even the meat, though most was tragically wasted on the plains, sometimes provided income when tongues were harvested as delicacies. For the native peoples of the Great Plains, particularly the Comanche, Cheyenne, and Lakota, the Sharps rifle represented an existential threat. The systematic destruction of the buffalo by white hunters armed with these long-range weapons struck at the very foundation of Plains Indian culture and survival. Some warriors managed to acquire Sharps rifles of their own, but by then, the balance had already shifted irrevocably. By 1883, the once countless herds had been reduced to scattered survivors. The Sharps rifle had accomplished in a decade what wolves and natural predators couldn't do in millennia: nearly eliminate the American bison. From an estimated 30 million animals, fewer than 1,000 remained. The blood-soaked legacy of the Sharps on the Great Plains stands as a stark reminder of technology's power to transform landscapes and cultures. In the hands of buffalo hunters, this remarkable rifle didn't just kill individual animals. It helped bring an end to an entire way of life and forever altered the ecology of the American West. While the Sharps rifle carved its legend on the Buffalo Plains, its battlefield prowess had already been established years earlier. When the Civil War erupted in 1861, military leaders on both sides recognized the revolutionary potential of this remarkable weapon. The Union Army was first to embrace the Sharps on a large scale, arming specialized sharpshooter units with these advanced rifles. Colonel Hiram Burden's 1st and 2nd U.S. sharpshooters became the most feared marksmen of the conflict. Clad in distinctive green uniforms that offered camouflage, these elite soldiers wielded the Sharps Model 1859 with devastating effect. At battles like Antietam and Gettysburg, Burden's men could strike down Confederate officers from distances exceeding 600 yards, ranges that seemed almost supernatural to soldiers carrying standard-issue muskets. Confederate forces, despite manufacturing challenges, recognized the Sharps' value. The Richmond Armory produced limited quantities of Sharps copies, while others were captured from Union troops. In the hands of seasoned marksmen, these weapons changed battlefield calculus, forcing troops to keep their heads down and disrupting command structures as officers became prime targets. Following the Civil War, the U.S. Army continued its relationship with Sharps firearms. The model 1867 and later the 1874 military rifle became vital tools for cavalry units pushing westward. Unlike the heavy buffalo guns, military Sharps carbines featured shorter barrels, better suited for horseback use. These weapons offered a crucial technological edge during the Indian Wars of the 1870s. When Colonel George Armstrong Custer and the 7th Cavalry rode toward Little Bighorn in 1876, many of his scouts carried Sharps rifles. Though Custer's immediate command relied primarily on single-shot Springfield carbines, the battle highlighted the importance of superior firepower on the frontier. The outcome might have been different had more troopers been armed with the faster-firing Sharps. Perhaps no battle better demonstrated the Sharps' battlefield superiority than the Second Battle of Adobe Walls in 1874. A small group of buffalo hunters, most armed with Sharps rifles, managed to hold off hundreds of Comanche, Kiowa, and Cheyenne warriors. The battle's most famous moment came when Hunter Billy Dixon used his Sharps 50-90 to strike a mounted warrior at the astonishing distance of 1,538 yards, nearly 7/8 of a mile. Though partly luck, this shot entered frontier lore as evidence of the Sharps' almost mythical capabilities. The rifle proved equally valuable in less-known conflicts. During the range wars that erupted across the West, from Lincoln County to Johnson County, the Sharps often determined which faction controlled the high ground. Ranch owners hired professional gunmen specifically for their skill with these long-range weapons, using them to control vast territories with minimal manpower. Military scouts like Buffalo Bill Cody carried Sharps rifles during their service. As a scout for the 5th Cavalry, Cody reportedly used his Sharps to supply bison meat to railroad workers and soldiers. His famous shooting exhibitions later helped cement the weapon's reputation in popular culture. By the 1880s, newer repeating rifles began replacing single-shot weapons in military service. Yet the Sharps had already secured its place in military history. From Civil War battlefields to frontier outposts, the distinctive crack of the Sharps had announced the arrival of modern warfare, where precision, range, and firepower could overcome even significant numerical disadvantages. The Sharps rifle wasn't merely present during the military campaigns that shaped America. It fundamentally changed how those campaigns were fought, leaving an indelible mark on battlefield tactics that would influence military thinking for generations to come. Long after the last frontier buffalo hunter packed away his cartridge board, the Sharps rifle continues to cast a long shadow across American culture. This isn't merely a weapon confined to museum displays. It remains an enduring symbol of Western expansion, technological innovation, and frontier self-reliance. In literature and film, the Sharps appears as an almost mythical instrument. When Tom Selleck's character in Quigley Down Under demonstrated his marksmanship with a Sharps, audiences glimpsed the weapon's legendary status. The distinctive silhouette, long octagonal barrel, robust action, and crescent butt plate has become instantly recognizable even to those who've never handled a firearm. For collectors, original Sharps rifles represent the pinnacle of 19th century American craftsmanship. Factory original examples in good condition regularly command tens of thousands of dollars at auction. The most prized specimens, those with documented historical provenance or exceptional condition, have fetched over $100,000. The 1874 models, particularly those manufactured by Sharps Rifle Company before 1881, remain the most sought after. The legacy lives on through modern reproductions. Companies like Shiloh Rifle Manufacturing and C. Sharps Arms produce meticulously crafted replicas using traditional methods. These aren't mere approximations. Many are built with greater precision than the originals, using modern metallurgy while maintaining historical accuracy in design and function. In an age of disposable technology, the Sharps stands as a reminder of an era when objects were built to last generations and designed with unwavering purpose. For those who appreciate history, the Sharps isn't just a firearm. It's a tangible connection to the complex story of the American West, with all its triumph and tragedy.